Hello and welcome to Indus News live from Islamabad. I'm Meher Sher and these are the headlines. Myanmar's military has taken control of the country after arresting state councillor Aung San Suu Kyi and other political leaders. The military said it is handing power to Commander-in-Chief Min Aung Hlaing and imposing a state of emergency for 1 year. Suu Kyi has called on the public not to accept the coup and urged them to protest. Tensions between the Suu Kyi government and the military were on the rise following a disputed election. China hands over the first batch of 500,000 doses of COVID-19 vaccines to Pakistan. Addressing the ceremony at Nur Khan Air Base, Rawalpindi, Chinese envoy Nongrong said Pakistan is the first country to receive Chinese vaccines. Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi thanked the Chinese government and said Beijing has gifted the vaccine as a gift to Islamabad. The country has registered over 1,600 new cases and 26 fatalities overnight, taking the death toll to over 11,600. Globally, the virus has claimed over 2.2 million lives and infected more than 102 million people so far. In India, police have blocked roads into New Delhi to stop farmers from entering the capital as the government prepares to deliver the budget. The internet and messaging services have already been blocked at the farmers' protest venues. Farmers' unions say over 100 farmers are still missing after the police crackdown on Republic Day protest rally. Twelve people, including 7 children, have died after 2 vessels sank near Colombia's Pacific coast. The Colombian authorities say they have rescued 35 people, including 3 children, and shifted them to hospitals. The naval officials say the cause of the incident is being investigated. And in football, Barcelona beat Athletic Bilbao 2-1 to move up to second place in Spanish La Liga. Lionel Messi scored his 650th goal for Barcelona with a wonderful free kick, curling the ball into the top corner. Ronald Koeman's side is now 10 points behind leaders Atletico Madrid on 40 points. Well, those were the headlines. More news in detail after a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. And now for the news in more detail. We begin in Myanmar, where the military has taken control of the country after arresting state councillor Aung San Suu Kyi and other political leaders. The military says it is handing power to Commander-in-Chief Min Aung Hlaing and imposing a state of emergency for a year.
In November's election, Suu Kyi's National League for Democracy won enough seats to form a government. But the military termed the election as fraudulent and tensions since have been high. Now soldiers are on the streets of the capital, Naypyidaw, and the main city, Yangon. A spokesperson for NLD has urged the followers to abstain from responding rashly and abide by the law. Myanmar Bankers Association says banks have agreed to temporarily shut all financial services due to poor internet connections. Meanwhile, the West has condemned the coup, calling for the release of the elected leaders. United Nations Secretary-General Antonio Guterres said the developments are a serious blow to democratic reforms. He urged all leaders to refrain from violence and respect human rights. The United States said it will take action against those responsible if the steps are not reversed. Australia, Singapore, and other countries have expressed dismay over the military action in Myanmar.
Now, for more on this developing story, we are being joined by Kyaw Win, Executive Director, Burma Human Rights Network in the United Kingdom. Kyaw Win, thank you for your time. Kyaw Win, Myanmar's military ruled the country directly for nearly 50 years and once again has seized power from a democratic government. What led them to take this action?
There are many things we are right now thinking. One of the things is, the military general who is leading the coup is a person who committed genocide on Rohingya Muslims in Burma. And the international community is now watching him because of the crime he has committed. So he, according to the military rule, he is now at the age of the to be retired, because he must be retired in this year. So his people, some people will, they will be promoted. So the problem is he cannot, if he retired, there will be a problem. There will be risk for him. Someone could send him to The Hague because of the crime he has committed. So for that reason, he tried to save himself from the crime he has committed, the genocide he has committed against the Rohingya people. So if he become a dictator, he control the country, so nobody can arrest him now. So he's the most powerful guy in Burma.
Okay, Myanmar State Councillor Aung San Suu Kyi has called on the public not to accept the coup and urged them to protest. Kyaw Win, do you see unrest in the country after her statement?
When because this is a publicly democratically elected government, right? So when they throw away democratically elected government, that means they are declaring war against the population, against the democratic system, against the human civilization. So we must not allow this. If one country is doing and allowed by international community, then another country will follow. So what about the whole economic, the system, international system, going to be affected gradually? So that is a very dangerous indication. So we urge international community, including Pakistan and the neighboring countries, this is the time you need to stand up with the people, not with the power, not with the military junta, those who take the power illegally.
Right. Kyaw Win, thank you so much for talking to Indus News. And now moving on, in India, police have blocked roads into New Delhi to stop farmers from entering the capital as the government prepares to deliver the budget. Internet services were blocked in several neighborhoods on the outskirts where protests turned violent last week. Security was stepped up around Parliament and other important government offices in the central district. Meanwhile, an alliance of various Indian diaspora organizations has demanded the repeal of the 3 agricultural laws. The Global Indian Progressive Alliance demanded that the Indian government recognize the right to peaceful protest. Moving on, the Taliban have rejected the statement by the power accusing them of escalating violence and killing civilians. The Taliban warned that their willingness to negotiate and hold dialogue must not be exploited nor mistaken for a weakness.
With the new administration in the White House calling for a review of the Doha peace agreement and a sudden barrage of extensive criticism and accusations from all sides, including the Taliban, the Afghan peace process seems to have entered a gully. In a statement, the Taliban said the principal and leading cause for the ongoing crisis in Afghanistan is foreign occupation. They said most countries, including the European Union, are either directly or indirectly involved in the tragedies, destruction, bombings and the killings in Afghanistan. The Taliban said some of these countries are still trying to extend the presence of foreign occupation forces in and to prolong the ongoing conflict. The group said it sought to resolve the issues through dialogue from the very outset. The Taliban said they have a legal right to free its homeland from the presence of occupying forces with every lawful means necessary.
Now, China has handed over the first batch of 500,000 doses of COVID-19 vaccines to Pakistan. A special Pakistan Air Force plane carrying the vaccine from Beijing has reached Nur Khan Base in Rawalpindi. Addressing the ceremony at Nur Khan Base, Rawalpindi, Chinese envoy Nong Rong said Pakistan is the first country to receive the Chinese vaccine. Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi thanked the Chinese government and said Beijing has gifted the vaccine to Islamabad. Special Assistant to Prime Minister on Health, Faisal Sultan, says the frontline healthcare workers will be vaccinated first. Meanwhile, schools and universities have also reopened across the country today. The Health Ministry says COVID-19 has claimed 26 more lives overnight. The countrywide death toll has reached 11,683. Out of over 546,000 cases detected so far, more than 501,000 have recovered. Meanwhile, the number of COVID-19 patients in French hospitals has hit a near 9-week high as France shuts its borders with all countries outside the EU. Globally, the virus has claimed over 2.2 million lives and infected more than 102 million people so far. More on the pandemic in this report.
While fresh restrictions, angry protests, less than perfect vaccine distribution mar the fight against COVID-19, the virus has infected another 500,000 people over the past 24 hours. A number of European capitals, including Brussels, Budapest, Vienna, and Amsterdam, are crammed with protesters angry over restrictions. The UK has carried out record vaccinations in one day as over 598,000 received their first dose. Meanwhile, after an intensified regional row over AstraZeneca's announcement to cut vaccine supplies to European Union, the bloc has now announced to acquire 9 million more doses from the company in the first quarter of this year. In Sweden, Nobel Prize banquet Blue Hall has become the COVID-19 vaccination center.
We have this amazing place that is empty right now, but it's also the citizens' house, I feel, and we should use it. And when I heard that the vaccine is really, it demands a lot of space, then we said, okay, we have this sports hall, we can use them, but we can also use the Blue Hall because everyone knows where it is, and we can use it in a positive way.
In China, a World Health Organization team tracing origins of COVID-19 visited a wet food market in Wuhan City, where the virus was initially detected. Chinese experts say the COVID-19 patients who tested positive again after recovering from their first bout of the illness are barely infectious. Authorities say the overall epidemic control situation in China is showing a promising trend as cases dropped sharply.
In the latter half of this week, the existing confirmed cases and asymptomatic infections nationwide have begun to drop, as the prevention of the control measures taken in the places with the outbreak of cluster cases earlier this month have demonstrated their effect. Region-specific multi-level target approaches are being adopted in the epidemic prevention and control work. Overall risks of the epidemic of the country is controllable.
Over in Japan, the government is expected to extend a state of emergency in the regions continuing to see a high number of infections. The health ministry says despite the decline in new cases, hospitals are under pressure as the number of critically ill COVID-19 patients are still on the rise. Western Australia state has imposed a complete lockdown for 5 days for over 2 million people after detecting a single coronavirus case.
Now, U.S. President Joe Biden has agreed to meet a group of Republican senators to discuss the next coronavirus relief package. Earlier, 10 Republicans urged Biden to scale down the relief bill and sought bipartisan negotiations. White House spokesperson Jen Psaki said Biden spoke with Maine Senator Susan Collins. He invited her and other signatories to come to the White House for a full exchange of views. In a letter, the legislators said a scaled-down version of the aid package would garner bipartisan support in Congress. They said it would call for more targeted relief than Biden's plan to issue $1,400 stimulus checks for most Americans. This came after Biden said he supported passing the relief bill with or without Republican support. Now, the former U.S. President Donald Trump has named 2 new lawyers for his defense in the impeachment trial. This comes a day after Trump abruptly parted ways with an earlier set of attorneys. In a statement, Trump's office said lawyers David Shane and Bruce Castor will head the defense effort now. The office said Shane had already been helping Trump and his advisors prepare for the proceedings. It added both lawyers agree that this impeachment is unconstitutional. In a statement, Shane said it is an honor to represent the 45th president and the United States Constitution. The Senate will consider Trump's impeachment trial on charges of incitement of insurrection in the week of February 8th. And former White House senior advisor Jared Kushner and his deputy Avi Berkowitz have been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. They were nominated for their role in negotiating normalization deals between Israel and Arab nations. In a statement, Kushner said he was honored to be nominated for the prize, which will be awarded in October. The pair was nominated by an American attorney, Alan Dershowitz. He was eligible to do so in his capacity as a professor emeritus of Harvard Law School. Kushner is former President Donald Trump's son-in-law, and Berkowitz was the Middle East envoy during his administration. Moving on, Qatar says it will grant $360 million to the Gaza Strip to be dispersed throughout this year. State media said the grant will be used to provide financial aid to families in need and operate power stations. It added the funds will also be used to pay the employees' salaries. In October last year, Qatar pledged to continue providing assistance to Gaza throughout 2021. Besides providing humanitarian aid to the residents, this initiative also aims to calm tensions between Hamas and Israel. 9 people, including 4 AL-SHABAB militants, have been killed in an attack on a hotel in the Somali capital, Mogadishu. At least 10 civilians were injured in the attack. Security officials say the death toll could rise as there still are civilians inside the building while Operation Against Terrorists is underway. Police say a vehicle loaded with explosives crashed into the gate of the capital's Afrique hotel. Quickly afterwards, a number of armed gunmen invaded the hotel, opening fire on staff inside. Government forces responded to the attack with gunfire, while police rescued many people from the hotel. The Al-Shabaab militant group has claimed responsibility for the attack. Moving on, 12 people, including 7 children, have died after 2 vessels sank near Colombia's Pacific coast. The Colombian authorities say they have rescued 35 people, including 3 children, and shifted them to hospitals. Admiral Jose David Espitia said the vessels set off from Tumaco port towards Guayabo district. He said the Coast Guard is searching for more survivors with planes and helicopters. Naval officials say the cause of the incident is being investigated.
We sympathize and express our condolences to the relatives of the victims. All institutions in San Andreas de Tumaco will continue to work until they can find the missing people at sea.
We'll look at more stories after a short break. Stay with us. We're back. In an act of reverse colonialism, Pakistan has come up with its own Charlie Chaplin. He can be found roaming the western city of Peshawar. More in this report.
With a black bowler hat on his head, a walking stick in one hand, and an alarmed look on his face, Osman Khan dodges between speeding cars and rickshaws on the streets of Peshawar, mimicking Charlie Chaplin. The 20-year normally sells children's toys from a roadside stand, but since the start of the pandemic, he has begun to dress up as Chaplin, the British comic who rose to fame in an era of silent films a century ago. Thanks to social media, he's become a bit of a celebrity. In just 2 months after opening an account, he had gained more than 800,000 followers on the social media platform TikTok.
I'm impressed by Charlie's body language. He's making people smile with silent comedy. Winning people's hearts with silent comedy is a difficult task. So I thought, why don't I become Pakistan's Charlie so that I can bring happiness and comedy to the people in the time of coronavirus pandemic?
Khan, who comes from a poor background like Chaplin, scrounged around to make his own outfit, copying every detail from his trademark mustache to clown shoes worn on the wrong feet. When he goes to town, he does his best to recreate scenes from Chaplin films, drawing ire from shopkeepers at a garment shop as they append their wars and poking fun at pedestrians.
I feel that work that Usman is doing, making people laugh, is a type of philanthropy. For the past year, we have been surrounded by COVID and everyone is depressed. He's making a great effort to revive the great name of Charlie Chaplin.
Usman Khan hopes one day his act will lead to a career in television or film.
Now in Paris, classic and vintage cars have brought a touch of extra style and nostalgia. Around 700 vehicles of various eras took part in the 21st winter crossing of the French capital. This report has the details.
Classic cars have always been stuff of dreams for many. Breathing fresh air and driving down the world's most beautiful avenue in an old car takes it to a whole new level. Naturally, people were in awe when a variety of vintage vehicles were seen across the city of Paris.
Which car do I like? This one. I really noticed it because I never see cars like this one. That's what surprised us, and then we stayed. It is really pleasant to see a lively moment like this early in the morning.
The cars drove past landmarks such as Moulin Rouge Cabaret and the Eiffel Tower.
Vintage cars must not be forbidden in Paris. Definitely not. Those cars are alive, it's our history, and they must keep on driving.
Many participants gave up gathering in large numbers and had to observe social distancing measures.
It is great. We were not supposed to go back that way and we took another path at the last minute. We said let's pass by this area and we stumbled upon this, which is crazy. I am no car expert, but it's great. A very good surprise. I am loving it.
Now in its 13th year, the parade usually takes place at the end of July, but was delayed this year because of the pandemic.
On to business. European stock markets are recovering from the GameStop fiasco and the Wall Street sell-off. Investors rallied in the positive sentiment created by Asian bourses. Leading the gains, Frankfurt DAX has climbed close to 1.5%. European Stock 600 and the CAC 40 in Paris have added over 1%. London's FTSE 100 and Italy's FTSE MIB too have gained nearly 1%. Earlier, all major Asian bourses traded higher, with Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index and South Korea's Kospi leading the gains. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at indus.news.